post the link. Copy that and pop it into the group over here. Okay, we are holding by the beginning of Chodesh Adar, which is a lot of fun, as always. Which means next Shabbos. Next Shabbos is Purim. There's a lot to speak about with regards to Purim, but we'll discuss an Indian with regards to Purim that also relates very closely to the Mishkan, which you're going to say what exactly is the relation between Purim and the Mishkan. There's a lot to speak about. It all has to do with the number 54.
The gallows, 54 amos, 50 amos? No.
50 amos of the gallows, yeah. What's up with the number 54? Yeah.
Just give that to me.
So what? All right. What's up with Nun Daled? Nun Daled. What's So this is a member of the Gra. The Vilna Gaon writes that in the Nusach of Ala Nisim of Purim, he says you have to add in the words Va'ashevosa lo gmula al rosha. You have to add in those 4 words, 5 words, Va'ashevosa lo gmula al rosha. That it was turned onto him that which he wanted to do on his head. Why, says the Gra? Kadeshiyu nun daled tevos, so that there are 54 words in Ala Nisim. Ala Nisim for Purim has to have 54 words. That's interesting.
Also interesting that we don't follow that.
It depends on your siddur.
I have never seen it, and not inspired or not.
I think the Artschool siddur has it. Yeah. Talo Oitzer is one of our. That's the end.
Okay.
It's so the Gra writes that you have to add in those words. I think the Artschool has them. And he writes that it is why do you have to have these nun daled words? He says because Haman is mentioned 54 times in the Megillah. Good. And if you count up all of the letters in the Aseres B'nai Haman, in the 10 sons of Haman, there's 54 letters. So this is already interesting.
Also, like Dan and Haman is the same gematria.
Mm-hmm.
So Dan, Nun, Daled.
So this obviously has to do with something to a Shevet Dan, right?
Shevet Dan, yeah.
Shevet Dan.
Yeah.
This has to do with Shevet Dan somehow, which is interesting. Because Mordechai, of course, comes from Shevet Binyamin, right? Mordechai is from Binyamin. The Gemara Megillah says that there was a machlokes in the days of Mordechai, because the pasuk says about him, not an actual machlokes about taking responsibility. The pasuk says that Mordechai is called the Ish Yehudi, which means from Yehuda, right? He's a Judean. And then it also says Ish Yemini, a Benjaminite, right? That's Ish Yemini. So the Gemara Megillah says that at the beginning of the whole Purim saga, nobody wanted to take responsibility for him because to the naked eye, it seemed that Mordechai was the reason that all the Jews were in danger. The pasuk says Mordechai lo yichrav lo yishtachava. And Haman gets very angry with him. It's because of everything that Mordechai did that Haman wanted to kill all the Jews. Meaning, Mordechai, people don't realize this. The story of Megillas Esther, which, you can roll through if you learn slowly in an hour. Slowly, it's an hour. Took 13 years from the beginning to the end. That's a long time. That's a long time. Like, meaning, big scheme of things, it's not a long time. But in the story of the Megillah, we feel like, chick-chack, Vashti gets executed, Esther's the queen, Mordechai doesn't bow down, and 15 minutes later, Haman gets executed.
Yeah.
Like, right? 13 years. It's a long story. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, in that period of time, people got married, had children, built IKEA furniture, sold it secondhand, bought more, right?
Like the stress is compounding of like, oh my gosh, we're all going to be killed.
Yeah.
We're thinking of it's like a week, but it's like over a year.
And also, they didn't know the end of the Megillah.
Right.
So much more stressful when you don't know the end. I'll tell you, by the way, one of the most amazing conversations that I ever had was with I was in NCSY, I think, 11th or 12th grader that was a recent Baal Tshuva, like Mamish didn't have a background in anything, that he spent his first Rosh Hashanah in Shul, and he was following along in the English, the story of the Akedah. He didn't know the end. He said that Rosh Hashanah is like, it was his first Rosh Hashanah in Shul. It's like Hashem says to Avram, kill your son. And it was like, oh my God, what's about to happen? Like, he started flipping the page. Like, we know the end of the story. But if you don't know the end of the story, like, it's terrifying. It's a terrifying thing to read. Megillah says if you don't know the end of the story, it's terrifying. It's a frightening thing. Like, you wonder, like, everybody's dressed up in shul to, like, hear that. Like, it's a horrifying thing to read. So this story was scary. At the beginning of the story, Mordechai is Ish Yehudi, Ish Yemini. The Gemara says that the people from Binyamin said he's not one of ours, and the people from Yehuda said he's not one of ours. And the truth is, Rashi points out at the end of the Megillah that even at the end of the story, Mordechai wasn't yet like accepted by everybody. Right? V'ratzeh l'roi v'echav. Most Jews like Mordechai at the end of the story. Can never please everybody, right? Never please everybody. There's no ways for you to please. Ratzeh l'roi v'echav. And who disagreed with him? Says Rashi, sheparsh minu miktas haSanhedrin. Some of the Sanhedrin still disagreed with him. They thought that it was now inappropriate, that he should be taking over Haman's position in the government. How could he join the government? It's pasnished. That Mordechai is Talmid Chacham. Why is he involved in the government? They were upset with him. Parshman Miktas Sanhedrin. Most Jews at that point agreed with him, but the minority did not. There was still a minority, and at the beginning, the majority thought that he was out of his mind. Right? The whole thing was bizarre. Mordechai was persona non grata. He was not, but either which way, he's from Yehuda or Binyamin, meaning practically we know that he is from Shevet Binyamin, right? Meaning he is Ben Yair ben Shimi ben Kish, right? Right? Who's Kish? The father of Shaul HaMelech, right? Shaul ben Kish, is descendant from the same mishpacha. Mordechai is a descendant of Shaul HaMelech, which is an important consideration because Shaul HaMelech failed to destroy Amalek. And Mordechai, his descendant now, is finishing up the job. Meaning Mordechai ties up the loose ends of Shevet Binyamin from generations earlier. That notwithstanding, he's not from Shevet Dan. So what does this have to do with Shevet Dan? Right? What does this have to do with the number 54 Shevet Dan? What is going on here? So firstly, we should point out a little bit of an introduction to Shevet Dan, which is connected to the Mishkan. What's Pshat in Shevet Dan in the Mishkan? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, this next, last week and the next 4 weeks coming up, is all about the Mishkan. Is there are two people that are involved in the construction of the Mishkan. They are Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur lematei Yehuda and Eliav ben Achisamach lematei Dan. There are two people involved in the building of the Mishkan. The two chief architects. There's Betzalel, he's number one, and his second in command is Eliav ben Achisamach from Shevet Dan. He's the number two. Keep that in mind, the relationship between Yehuda and Dan. That relationship is considerably deeper, because if you take a look at the Pesukim in Malachim Aleph, you will notice that there are two people that build the Beis HaMikdash. Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo is from Shevet. No, Shlomo HaMelech. From Yehuda, right? He's the king that commissions the Beis HaMikdash. Who's the chief architect of the Beis HaMikdash? Hiram. Hiram is the chief architect of the Beis HaMikdash, who is from Shevet, Naphtali, and Dan. Dan and Naphtali, who of course are the children of Bilhah, Bnei Rachel. They are full brothers, right? Dan and Naphtali. So you have the Mishkan is built by Yehuda and Dan. The Beis HaMikdash is built by Yehuda and Dan. The conquest of Eretz Yisrael. You have at the front of the camp is Yehuda. The back of the camp is Dan. And when they encircle Yericho, the two Shvatim that are next to each other are Yehuda and Dan. Yes? Not only that, but you might you see from the pictures that we have in Shul, the stained glass windows, what animal does Yehuda represent? Lion. Right? Lion represents Yehuda. Dan? Snake. You 100% sure of that?
I don't know what snake, but a snake.
Snake. There's a problem with that. If you open up, right? It's true. You're not wrong. Yaakov Avinu says that Dan is Nachash. But apparently, Moshe Rabbeinu disagrees. Moshe Rabbeinu disagrees. When Moshe Rabbeinu is given brachas, he says as follows. Uledan Amar. And to Dan he said, Dan gur Aryeh. Is a nek min habasha. Dan is a lion cub.
And isn't it Gur Aryeh Yehuda?
Gur Aryeh Yehuda. Yeah. That's interesting. Yehuda was the lion by Yaakov. So what's pshat with him being, with Dan being the lion now? So he's a snake, he's a lion snake. And there's for sure like some pre-Renaissance paintings of like lion snakes, right? Like, from like the old like carving things that you see in like the Chumashim, right? Some kind of like lion snake. No. You see that there's some relationship between Dan and Yehuda. That's quite interesting. There's also a fascinating, it seems machlokes in Chazal. The Gemara in Maseches Yuma, Yuma Perek Yud Aleph, the end of the first parak, and Daf Yugil and Aleph, the Gemara tells us the story of the Kvura, the burial of Yaakov Avinu.
That involves Naphtali.
It involves Naphtali.
Dan ran, or who?
Naphtali runs. What's the story? Let's roll through the story quickly, right? What happened, right? Let's quite literally roll through the story. Yaakov Avinu dies at the end of Parshas Vayechi, pretty much towards the end of Parshas Vayechi, and he tells makes Yosef promise him, "I'll not take bury in Mitzrayim. Don't bury me in Mitzrayim. Take me to Eretz Yisrael." Takes him to Eretz Yisrael. Good, along with all of the brothers. And there's a whole procession. All of the kings of Canaan come, and the Chazal described it. There was a big deal. Everything's going on. They're very, very levitic. We have a site. Yeah, we'll say it inside because it's very good. There's a couple of details that are just very, very good to see inside. The Gemara says, Nazir site. Yeah. Pasuk says, that's the story of, before that. The Gemara says as follows, Amar B'Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadok, in Kira Eloshin Mechira, Sheken Bechari Hayam Karim Mechira Kira, Amar Lahu Havali. So, at the beginning of this, a little before that, when they came to bury Yaakov Avinu, Pasuk says, "Vayavo ad goin ha'atad." They came to the threshing floor of Atad. It says, "V'chi goin yesh lo le'atad." Is there really a threshing floor of Atad? Amar Rabbi Abahu melamed sheikifur k'tarim la'aron shel Yaakov k'gorin zeh shemakifin lo atad. That there were crowns that surrounded the aron of Yaakov, like grain around the threshing floor. What does that mean? Shebal b'nei Esav, u'b'nei Yishmael, u'b'nei Keturah. That all of the kings, well, all of the leaders, the descendants that came from Esav, Yishmael, and Keturah, all of the children and grandchildren of Avram Avinu, all came. What did they come for? La milchama. To go to war. They all came to war. It says, says Kevan Shiro Kitra Shel Yosef Talabarani Shel Yaakov. Once they saw that the crown of Yosef was hanging on the aron, on the coffin of Yaakov, not lukulam kitreim v'talum ba'arona shel Yaakov. They all took off their crowns and they said, if Yosef is involved, we stand no chance. Everybody bows to Yosef. Yosef is the Shalit al Eretz Mitzrayim. He's in charge of Egypt. So everybody says, we're not messing with that. Says the Gemara, Tana Shloshim Meshisha Ketorim Not L'Ba'aron Shel Yaakov, that there were 36. There's the number of crowns that were hanging off the Aron of Yaakov. V'yispedu mispeit gadol, and they had a big eulogy there. 36 is an important number, not for now. It says, Gadol v'kaved me'od. Tana, afilu susim, afilu chamarim, even the horses and even the donkeys, which is an interesting conversation. Why are they involved in this? Says the pasuk, says the Gemara, then they got to Maras Machpelah. Finally, they get to the cave. They're about to bury Yaakov Avinu. Also, Esav. And Esav shows up. Dum, dum, dum. What's he showing up to say? He says, Kama Akiv. And he says, no, absolutely not. You are not going to bury him there. And he said to them, Mamre Kiryas Arbahi Chevron. We know the pasuk says that Mamre, that the Elonei Mamre, is called Kiryas Arba, which is in Chevron. Va'amar v'yischak Kiryas Arba Zugis Hayu. That there are only 4 slots for couples, right? There's only 4 seats at the table in the Maras Machpelah. Adam and Chava, that's 1. Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka. That's what you have there. Yaakov v'Leah, that's the 4th. So he says, Ihu kavra le'Leah b'didei. Says Esav, there's, after Yitzchak and Rivka are buried, there's 2 slots left. I'm happy to share. You'll take 1, I'll take 1. Yaakov, you already picked 1. You put Leah in your spot. I should get the last remaining spot. Fair's fair. We're twins, we're brothers. You took 1 already, I'll take the other one. And they said, but Esav, you sold it. You sold your birthright. You don't have a share here anymore. I sold the firstborn right, but I'm still a son. It's true that I don't get both spots. I'm just saying we should be even. You're telling me that I'm not a son of Yitzchak? Of course I'm a son of Yitzchak. So he says, they said to him, you don't get a spot. Bikivri asher karisi ili. He says, my kever that I made, meaning Yaakov and his dad said that this is my kever. I own this. That's that he sold it fair and square. That was part of the sale. Because we know that that's what the word means on the other side of the sea. Fine. If it's true that I sold it, then show me the deed. Show me the paperwork. You can't come along and say that I sold it without paperwork. Amrulay, they said to him, no, it's in Egypt. We left the paperwork in Egypt. Now, you always wonder about this marriage. Like, there's only one time that they would ever need this paperwork, right?
It's like when you get on a plane. You bring your
Right. That's the only time you need right? The only time that you need is when you get on a plane. What's the shot that they left us behind? Doesn't make any sense. Nevertheless, we'll see if we can explain. It says, so they said, Uman and Ezel. So who should go and get it? Who should go and get the paperwork? Ezel Naphtali. They should send Naphtali. Why? They're called because he's very light-footed. Right? Naphtali. Ki also dichsiv. Ki ayalasa is like a swift deer. Pasuk says, Naphtali ayala shlucha hanosin imri shafer. He brings the imri shafer. What's imri shafer? That's with a shin. Amar Rabbi Abba al tikrei imri shafer ela imri sefer. He's going to bring the words of the sefer, right? Not words of sweetness, pleasantness. Meaning the word shafer is like the word shufra, like beauty, not beauty, but books. He's going to bring the book. He's going to bring the documents. Then the Gemara pauses. There's like this interlude. Chushim, there's a man by the name of Chushim. Who's Chushim? The son of Dan. Chushim berated Dan, Tom and Hava. It says, Vayikron le Odne. Chushim was the single son of Dan, listed in the Psukim. He was there. V'yakiran la Odne, and he was hard of hearing. Right? He's hard of hearing. It's interesting, the lashon that the Gemara has is Yakiron Odne, that his ears were yakar. In Hebrew, we have the same word. Kaved means heavy and honorable. In Aramaic, the word yakar means it was difficult and precious. There's a pun, right? This meaning the word means the same thing. It says v'yakirun le'adne. His hard of hearingness was very precious. That's pshat in like the language of the Gemara. Why? It says the Gemara, Amar lehu. He says to them, "My high, what's going on?" Right? He didn't hear Esav saying whatever Esav was saying. He didn't hear them sending Naphtali. He just saw Uncle Naphtali who's left, and there's this fellow who's right. This fellow holding up the funeral. He says, "V'amale." They said to him, "Kama akev." Hi, this one pointing to Esav is holding up the funeral. Ad the asi Naphtali me'arad Mitzrayim, until Naphtali comes back from Mitzrayim with the documents. Amalahu v'ad the asi Naphtali me'arad Mitzrayim, and what? And until Naphtali comes back from Mitzrayim, Yehei avi abba mutal b'bizayin. What? Yaakov's body is just lying there. Disgrace. That's not covered. Yaakov's body is just lying there. Says the Gemara, Shakal Kulfa. He took a stick, Machia Areshe, whacked him on the head, Esav on the head. Notron Eine, his eyes popped out of their sockets. V'noflu Akara de Yaakov, and fell into the lap of Yaakov. This part, by the way, they don't tell you in kindergarten. It gets gory, right? They just say he chopped off his head. We'll get there. We'll get to the head roll stuff. The eyes popped out, landed in Yaakov's lap. But chinu Yaakov le'ene. Yaakov opened his eyes. V'achich, and he smiled. V'hainu dichsiv, and this is what the pasuk says: Yismach tzadik ki chaza nakum pamav yirchatz bedam harasha. That the pasuk says the tzaddik will be happy because a vengeance has happened with the death of the Rasha. It says Ba'isa Shah, and at that moment Niskayim and Nevuasa Shel Rivka. This was the fulfillment of the prophecy of Rivka Imenu. Tichsiv Lama Ashakel Gam Shnechem Yom Echad. Why should I be bereft of both of you on one day? It's true that they didn't die on the same day, but they were buried on the same day. And even though the Gemara says they didn't die on the same day, the burial was on the same day. And then the Gemara asked the question following up the previous conversation. That is the Gemara that we have in Masechah Sotah. The Medrash, however, tells a different story. Masechah Sotah Daf Yud Gimel. That's the Gemara. The Medrash, however, tells a slightly different story. The story of the rolling head is not from the Gemara, it's from the Medrash Rabbah. Medrash Rabbah says that at the time that, at least there's different versions of Midrashim, some that attribute it to Chushim Medan, but the other Midrashim that attribute it not to Chushim Medan, but to Yehuda. That Yehuda took a sword, decapitated Esav, and his head rolled into the kever of Yaakov. Yeah.
Because this version, it's just the eyes.
Just the eyes, correct.
Where's the death?
Meaning his eyes popped out and he died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he did die.
He died.
You
He
don't
died.
die from your eyes popping out.
Yeah.
You do?
I mean, I don't know.
So,
But-
the Medrash said that the head was buried with Yaakov.
That's true, but that's not this Gemara. Meaning there's, I mean, I think if you get whacked at the back of your head hard enough that your eyes pop out, that's probably
you're not
fatal,
doing too well.
right?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing that the eyes popped out. Like what's chat? The eyes pop out, right? Good. Adkan. What you see once again is that somehow or another in the death of Esav, there are 2 days in Chazal, either Yehuda or Dan, or maybe both to some extent. Maybe Dan knocks off his eyes and then Yehuda decapitates it. Right? It might have been both. Maybe. But if Chazal are discussing this, it means that the details of it are not relevant necessarily, exactly what happened. But Chazal are trying to tell us something about Dan and something about Yehuda. And there's a lot to try to figure out here. So you have Dan and Yehuda involved in building the Mishkan, building the Beis HaMikdash, in the conquest of Yericho, in the death of Esav. Dan and Yehuda. In the brachas of Yaakov and Moshe, they're both referred to as Gur Aryeh. Right? Both of them are lions. Interesting. Lots to try to figure out. It gets more interesting because in the war against Midian, at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, "Niknas b'nei Yisrael me'esa Midyanim," go and exact vengeance from the Midianites. Right? That's after Bilam tries to curse the Jewish people. So Bilam's trying to curse the Jewish people, and then they sin with the Bnei Moav, and then there's all the tumult with Pinchas and Zimri and Cosby, and then they go to war, and Vayesh Shevi, and then they capture this one Jewish girl that gets kidnapped. And the Psukim and Chazal explain to us that the Milchama of Midian, there was and again, there's different versions of this midrashim, but the Zohar HaKadosh tells us in Parshas Balak of a story of the death of Bilam. How did Bilam die? So this is like straight out of Marvel movies. That's where Marvel got it from the Zohar HaKadosh. That Bilam Harasha uses names of Tumah to fly into the air to escape the Jewish army that's encroaching. Rama Kalal ibn Chele, and as he does this, came the Chama lePinchas Parach la'avir. Rama Kalal ibn Chele Amar is man di yada lemifrach abatzrei daho Russia. Pinchas is about to kill Bilam. Bilam flies into the air, and Pinchas announces, "Is there anybody that knows how to chase after him? Anybody learned how to fly?" Says the Gemara, "Talia berei de shivta de Don come parach basrei." That there was a man by the name of Talia from the tribe of Dan that says, "Yeah, I got this one," and off he flies. V'dahu, and this is what Yaakov Avinu was saying at the end of Parshas Vayechi. Shififain alei oirach, hu al hahu oirach de'ovid hahu rasha. That Dan is a nachash. Shififain is called alei oirach. Along the way, which way? That way that was in the sky. He's the only one that knows how to fly to kill Bilam. Says the pasuk, "Dichsiv v'hi Dan nachash ali derech," and then the Gemara darshans all the Zohar darshans all of the heroes of Shevet Dan. He Dan nachash ali derech. Dan is a snake. By the way, said das Shimshon. That's Shimshon. Shimshon Hagibur was the snake. Shivan ali oirach, that is caught up lying in wait along the way. Da Talia. This is Talia that killed Bilam. Hanoishech ikve sus da'ira. The whole behaded David that bites the ankles of the horse. That was a man by the name of Ira in the days of David HaMelech. The Asimidan, who was from Shevet Dan, meaning one of the generals of David HaMelech's army, was from Shevet Dan. V'ginei Tali gevurte b'David, and it was because of him that David HaMelech was successful. Dichsiv v'yakar David eskol harecha v'yipol rechuvay achar da. Sorry, what's the end of the pasuk? He's going to make the rider fall back. That's Dan is a serpent. He's lying by the wayside, and he bites the ankle of the horse. And the rider falls off. Who's the person from Dan that's going to make the rider fall off? That's Saria. That is a man by the name of Saria, who we have not yet met. We don't know who Saria is. Why? Because he will come along with the Mashiach of Ephraim, Mashiach ben Yosef. He's coming to fight in that battle. He will be from Shevet Dan. And it doesn't exist yet. Maybe it does, right? But I mean, we haven't seen his story in real time. says, "V'zomin ihi lemevad nukmin ukrovin b'shara amin," and he will be in charge of exacting vengeance and going to war against the other nations. V'kad do yokum kedin havim mechaga lepukana yisho tichsiv lishuaschak kivisi Hashem, and he will be responsible for the eventual salvation of the Jewish people, like Yaakov finishes the bracha of Dan. Lishuaschak kivisi Hashem, I await your salvation, Hashem. Meaning that there are heroes coming from Shevet Dan that we have not yet seen yet. And from there will come Mashiach ben David. Meaning, all of the success of Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David is going to be tied to the fighters from Shevet Dan. What's going on here? What's going on? It's interesting to note, and Rosh Shlomo Fisher writes this up in Drashas Beis Yishai. This is worth knowing, just the inside. He's got a tremendous insight to the inside of why Chushim ben Dan is so ticked off by Esav. So the Chizkuni writes, there's an interesting conversation, we've spoken about this in other contexts. The Chizkuni writes about an interesting conversation that Yaakov Avinu has with Yosef just before he dies. He's about to ask Yosef to not leave him in Mitzrayim and to bury him in Eretz Yisrael. And he tells a strange story in the middle of this whole exchange. He says to him, this is towards the beginning of Parshas Vayechi, Vayaged liYaakov vayomer hinei bincha Yosef ba elecha v'yischazek Yisrael vayeshav al hamita. They told Yaakov that Yosef is coming. He strengthens himself. He sits up in the bed. Vayomer Yaakov el Yosef. Yaakov says to Yosef, "Kel shakayin nira elai beluz be'eretz Canaan vayivarach us." Hashem appeared to me in Luz in Eretz Canaan and he blessed me. And he said, "Hinei mafricha v'bisicha v'nasaticha lekahal hamim v'nasaticha es ha'aretz hazeh zarcha arecha achuz zelo." And Hashem promised me that I would make you into a great nation. I will give you this land. Eretz Yisrael. This is the preamble here. He says, Va'ata. And now he says, your two children are going to be like Ephraim and Manasseh, they're going to be like Reuven and Shimon. This is all normal conversation. And he says, and they will be part of the Nachla of the Jewish people. They are going to be tribes all by themselves. And then Yaakov reminisces. This is the first time that he reminisces about the death of Rachel since Rachel dies. He hasn't spoken about this since. He says, "Vani b'vay mi padan meis alay Rachel be'eretz Canaan b'derech ba'oid kivras eretz levay Efrasa ve'ek b'rash shama b'derech Efrasi beis lachem." And Rachel died when we were coming into Eretz Yisrael in derech beis lechem by Efrat. And then he says, "Vayar Yaakov, vayar Yisrael es b'nei Yosef vayomer mi'eli." And then he looks at him and he goes, "Who are these kids that he just gave a bracha to?" And then he says, "These are my children." And all of the Rishonim are bothered by, like, what's this interlude about the death of Rachel? So Rashi says that he's bothered by the fact that he's about to ask Yosef to bury him in Maras Machpelah, which he didn't do for Rachel. He feels bad about this. So this is his apology for not burying Rachel in Maras Machpelah. Reb Saadia Gaon has a tremendous insight into this whole story. He says it's not about the death of Rachel and the burial. It's about the bracha that he's giving to Ephraim and Manasseh. He says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Hineni mafricha v'bisicha, I'm going to make you into a great nation." He says, and then Rachel died, and I didn't have any more children. I thought it was all over. Now I realize that the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me is fulfilled through you, and that's why Ephraim and Manasseh are like Reuven and Shimon. I did have more tribes. I didn't have it through me and Rachel. I had it through you, Yosef. You're the one that has been the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me, which is an amazing and very emotional understanding of Reb Saadia Gaon. But the Chizkuni from the Balei HaTosfos explains that he asked a preamble to the question. He asked, why didn't Yaakov bury Rachel in Maras Machpelah? It's not like it was that far.
You just said that.
Yes, very close.
Wasn't
the
purpose because there would be people walking past, and that's where.
That's later we find that out, right? But
You just said
It's very
no
close.
No spot.
no.
Him and Leah.
But Leah hadn't died yet.
Oh, you're saying like.
Why didn't he bury Rachel there first?
Give it to the first.
Give it to Rachel. Rachel died first.
So what I mean, yeah, it's,
See, okay.
that's the
No,
common.
because then
But-
why they moved Yaakov out of Egypt?
Because he said the club is Nazi.
I'm saying Yaakov said, "Carry me to Maras Machpelah."
He said, that's the last thing you do. Get me over there.
Get me right.
Don't bury me.
Don't leave me.
It's
So-
very explicit.
right? But why didn't he apply the same? It would have taken a day, not even.
Yeah, it worked.
It's not that far.
The last time was very close to Hebron.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's along the way.
Well, maybe because Leah was his first wife, so the cover may have come to Leah.
So- All of this is a good suggestion. I'll tell you what the Chizkuni says. Yaakov was terrified of Esav. He had just gotten back to Eretz Yisrael. Esav had said, "Come with me. We'll be buddies. We'll be partners in this." And Yaakov says, "No. My kids are young. You go to your place. I'll go to my place." But Esav hasn't gone very far. If Yaakov now goes and puts his wife in Maras Machpelah, that is that's a provocation. That's a dead giveaway. That he's saying, "I'm going to take over Eretz Yisrael. I don't believe that you're the." Meaning, he's playing it cool. He's saying, "We'll work out what happens. You'll do your thing. I'll do my thing. We'll join together. We're okay." Says the Chizkuni, Yaakov knows if he buries him there, if he buries Rachel there, that Esav's coming back. All of the hugging and kissing and crying and let's be buddies and brothers is over. That's how the Chizkuni explains. So why is it that when Leah dies, Yaakov can bury Leah in Maras Machpelah? Because Esav's already far away. He's already gone to Har Seir. He's gone far away. Meaning he's already built a whole family and a community and a country. Meaning he's not bothered. Meaning he's not threatened by Yaakov now burying Leah. Which is why everybody's cool with this. But comes to the kavura, comes to the burial.
It's also so interesting. He's supposed to marry Leah.
Right, that's another piece of the relationship. But comes to the kavura, comes to the burial, and Esav shows up. So now this opens a gash in all of the Bnei Rachel, which is Yosef, Binyamin, Dan, and Naphtali. Naphtali goes to get the ksav. Yosef is insisting on the burial. He puts his crown on the thing. And Dan says, "No ways." Meaning it was from Bnei Dan, the people that are defending the honor of Rachel Imenu. Don't you dare come along and start giving grief about Maras Machpelah. We already did this once. That's how the Chizkuni touches up what's going on here. Right? That's the some fishes read within the Chizkuni. It's a tremendous insight. Meaning that this is personal. It's not just like who's in charge and what's going. This is very personal. But you see that Dan and Yehuda are like at two ends of this whole story. That there's so much going on. There's cooking. Dan and Yehuda is like very much going on here. Now we need to try to understand. Well, what is going on? What does this have to do with Purim? What does this have to do with Purim? Allah Nisim has to be 54 letters because of Dan, 54 words because of Dan. That's Seres B'nai Haman is 54 letters. Haman is mentioned in the Megillah 54 times. What's this relationship to Shevet Dan? So you might remember that the very first war that the Jewish people fought against Amalek, says the pasuk, "Vayizanev b'cha kol hanecheshalim acharecha v'ata ayev v'yageh v'lo yarei alekim." Vayizanev b'cha kol hanecheshalim acharecha, and he chased after you. Kol hanecheshalim acharecha, all of those that were straggling behind. Says Rashi, who's straggling behind? Jews from Shevet Dan. They're at the back of the camp. By the way, the Lashon necheshalim. What's the root of the word necheshalim? Nachash. Kol hanecheshalim acharecha. The first Jews that Amalek attacked were Shevet Dan. Why is Amalek attacking Shevet Dan?
Because he knows what's going to happen.
Because he killed Esav. Esav is the Zaydi of Amalek. This is a very, very old bone to pick. While they're in Egypt, who cares? But this is the old milchama of Yaakov and Esav. By the way, I think this Ruchaim Vital quotes this. Yeah, Ruchaim Vital quotes this from the Arizal, that Mordechai is a Gilgul of Yaakov and Haman is a Gilgul of Esav. That it comes back. That this whole thing is coming back again. Over and over and over again. This machlokes between Yaakov and Esav is coming back again. So Esav wants to knock out Shevet Dan. And that's why Shevet Dan has to be involved in the story. But Ad Kan, we see that there's a relationship here. But what does this have to do with the Jews in the days of Mordechai and Esther? There's no Shevet Dan there. There's no mention of Shevet Dan. In order to understand this, we need to take a little bit of a left turn and figure out what's pshat in Shevet Dan. Why are they? I mean, Yehuda is Yehuda. We know Shevet Yehuda. Yehuda is the leader of the Jewish people. But Shevet Dan, Chazal don't have a lot of nice things to say about Shevet Dan. There's a lot of stuff that's said about Shevet Dan that's not. It's like this. You wouldn't really want to make a shidduch with what Chazal said about Shevet Dan. For example, why is Shevet Dan at the back of the camp? Why are they at the back? They're not the youngest in any birth order, right? They're not the youngest. They're not the oldest. They're not. Why are they at the back? Why are they at the back? So Rashi quotes the Medrash.
What position was done in when they rested? Like when they were around the Mishkan.
Yeah. So he has a flag, and we'll get to that flag.
Yeah.
Right? We'll get to that flag. Because that flag is also not such a Levitic flag.
The snake?
No. Meaning each Shevet had colors on their flag that represented colors of the Choshen. Right? But why is done at the back of the camp? Because why they nechashalim acharecha? Shepalton ha'anan, because the Ananei HaKavod kicked them out. They were the people that were kicked out of the protective envelope of the Ananei HaKavod. Says the Yalkut at the end of Parshas Kiseitze, shehayu kulam ovdei avodah zara. They were all idol worshippers. That's not very nice. The Targum Yonasan ben Uziel in Parshas B'Shalach points out that when the Jewish people were crossing through Yam Suf, they were taking with the avodah zara with them. Shevet Dan was taking the idol worship with them. The Balaturim points out Vayizanev b'cha kol hanechashalim acharecha is the gematria ze haya shivtoi shel Dan. This was the Shevet of Dan. The Balaturim puts the gematrias together. The stragglers, that's Shevet Dan. Skip here a little bit. What's up with the flag of Shevet Dan? So there are different names for each of the stones that were in the Choshen of right, and each one of those stones has a name. You'll see this Parshas Kiseitze. There are three stones that are colors of three stones that are represented on the flag of Dan. They are Leshem, Shavai, V'Achlama. Those three stones are the only three that when Yechezkel writes about what things are in Gan Eden, he writes about 12. He writes about stones that come from Gan Eden. The only three stones that are not in Gan Eden in the vision of Yechezkel are Leshem, Shavai, V'Achlam. The three stones of Shevet Dan. Those ones are not in Gan Eden. Yeah, all other Shvatim are represented in Gan Eden. Dan is not. So what's Pshat? So Rabbi Nachman Breslov writes about this. And the first thing that you need to know is that Nachash is Gematria Moshiach. Right? Because Mem and Yud is Nun. Right? That's Mashiach. Nachash is Mashiach. Says Rabbi Nachman, when the Torah describes Machaneh Dan, Dan is referred to as the Ma'asef L'chol HaMachanos, the one that brings up the rear of all the camps. Ma'asef, the caboose, right? The ingatherer, the one that picks up the stragglers. That's Machane Dan. They traveled at the back of the camp. And Rashi quotes there that they had a unique job, which was they ran the national lost and found. Anybody dropped anything, so the people at the back, they saw, picked it up, and the next time they camped, they ran the lost and found. Whoever lost this shoe, come get it, Machane Dan. That's what the lost and found was. Says Rabbi Nachman, what's pshat that they ran the lost and found? He says, in every generation, there are Jews that are niflatu ha'anan, that the camp kicks out. Persona non grata. The Ovdei Avodah Zarah, the Balei Averis, the people the Jews that are not good at being Jews. They don't behave nicely. They get kicked out of the machane. Like the Gemara at the end of Maseches Yom, it describes when the man fell down. So if you were a big tzaddik, the man fell at your front door. And if you were less than a big tzaddik, you had to run a mile, sometimes much more than that. Meaning your man came down with like an address. So if you learnt well and davened well and you were nice to your wife and children, so the man fell down right in front of your you talked a little bit in shul, and then
For sure, all the way out.
Right? Run. Off you go. Machane Dan was like, they're running. I mean, so what's pshat? There's always Jews that are outside. The job of Machane Dan was the Ma'asef L'chol HaMachanos. They took in all of the Jews that got kicked out. They were the Chevra. And that's a dangerous job. That's a dangerous job to be involved in, because it's not like kavadika work. You don't get mafta yona for running the camp for the kids that aren't accepted to the other camps. You're not such a chashuv yid, and that also rubs off. People from Shevet Dan made some decisions. They understood that they're taking in people that are not always going to be A+ citizens, which means that the way that the things that the kids are exposed to, the things that they're going to hear at the Shabbos tables, it's not exactly going to be always divrei Torah. Machane Dan, people heard a lot of stuff. They saw a lot of things. The kids that were growing up there, wasn't always the case that every girl that came to the Shabbos table was from Beis Yaakov. You understand? It wasn't always the case that anytime somebody was speaking about Moshe Rabbeinu, they were speaking about him with respect. That was not what happened around the Shabbos tables of Shevet Dan, because these were the people that didn't fit in. That didn't fit in with Ratzon Hashem. That didn't fit in with Machane Yisrael. They didn't fit in. And so Dan was the Ma'asef L'chol HaMachanos, people that were gathering that in. Which means that they're the easiest pickings for the Amalek of the world. The easiest pickings. These are the Jews that already are not so connected to Yiddishkeit, that are not so connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, that are not so connected to Torah mitzvahs. These are the Jews that are shenifla ta'ana, that were kicked out. These are the Jews that are distant.
So maybe we shouldn't have left him in the back.
I'm saying the Anan is not collected. They can't be there. Everybody else is protected, but the Anan can't handle them, so they're out. They're the people that are left behind. Dan picks up. Dan is picking up those chavra, which means that when Amalek comes, those are the easiest people to prey on. Amalek, whose big yetzar is asher karcha b'derech, he cools you down. Or as the Ishbitzer says, he says everything is mikra, nothing is hashgacha. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't care about you. Everything that happens is already predetermined. You were born like this. What are you supposed to do? You'll never be accepted. You'll never be part of the Jewish people. You're a loser. You'll always be a loser. That's the Yitzhar of Amalek. You'll never be able to be successful. You were tired, you were exhausted. And it's a intentional ambiguity of the pasuk. Who's not the Yarei Elokim? Amalek or you that were attacked by Amalek? But there's no Yerushalayim there. On both sides of this. These are the Jews that don't feel like Judaism is there for them. Shevet Dan is the Ma'asef L'chal HaMachanos. So it's true. In Shevet Dan was all of their Avodah Zarah. And in Shevet Dan was all of the Tsaras. But also from Shevet Dan come the fighters that fight with Mashiach ben Yosef, and the fighters that fight with David HaMelech, and the fighters that would rescue the Jewish people, Shimshon HaGibor. Meaning, these are the fighters, because what are they fighting for? They are fighting for all of the lost property, meaning all of the neshamas avudas, all of the lost souls. They were the school that took the kids that didn't get accepted to other schools. That's called Shevet Dan. And it wasn't geschmack for them.
But is that a mila or a chesara? I mean, they're taking in people that...
It's an enormous mila. But societally, it's viewed as a chisar. Because the people that take in the people that nobody else wants, kacha. It's not, right? The Rosh Yeshiva of like the top shir and the top yeshiva is chashuv. The Rosh Yeshiva of the yeshiva for kids that are rejects of every other yeshiva, less chashuv. By significant percentages. But
in some ways, it's far more admirable.
And that's the point. Because there's an akudah that the Maharsha speaks about, which is Chushim ben Dan. Why is it that, we explained the Chizkuni that this was a personal thing about Rachel. But the lashon that the Gemara has about Chushim ben Dan is he goes, "My high, what's going on?" And they go, "No, Esav is." What's the mila of Chushim? What's his great mila? Chushim ben Dan. Why is it that he can bop Esav over the head? It's because he's the only one that can't listen to what Esav is saying. Because what's going on here? Esav stands up and he makes a speech. Very charismatic, Esav. He's very charismatic. The Kotzka says about Esav, it's a deep pshat both in pshat and in Pnimis HaTorah. If you read the psukim, forget anything that you saw from Rashi, from Chazal. If you read the psukim, is Esav a bad guy? No. From the psukim themselves, pshat in the psukim, Esav does not seem like a bad guy. He's a guy that knows how to hunt. He's a guy that loves his father. He's a guy that his father loves him. He's an entrepreneur. He seems to be capable. Yitzchak wants to give him the brachas, and Yaakov comes along and steals them. Yeah. He's about to die. And one could even argue, advocating for Esav here, that Yaakov says to his brother Esav, "I'll save your life if you give me your birthright."
In a sense.
It's exploitation. Of course, Chazal point out that Vayizav Esav es Bukhara means that after he sold it, he then denigrated it. Meaning after he was satiated, he still denigrated it. But that's already a limud in the pasuk. King James Bible, I could well see that they don't know those things. Right? Esav doesn't seem like such a bad fellow. The hands are the hands of Esav. He's the capable person. Yitzchak wants to give him a bracha. It's a big machlekes in Chazal, within the Rishonim. Did Yitzchak want to give him the bracha Aval Bichen, even though he knew who Esav was? Or did he want to give him the bracha because he didn't know who Esav was? It's machlekes in the Rishonim. Says the Kotzka about Esav, you think that Esav, his description is beautiful. He says, you think that Esav walked around barefoot wearing a colored shirt, farming pigs? That's what you think of Esav? He says, no. He says, Esav had a long beard, long payas, and a big strimel, and he said, murder Keteris by Shalashut. He says, Esav was a Rebbe, and it was a much bigger Rebbe than Yaakov. Much bigger Rebbe. Esav's yeshiva was huge. Esav was a mover and a shaker. He was a doer. So he says, so what was his rishus? He says, because Yaakov was a much bigger tzaddik, and he wasn't able to accept that Yaakov was greater than him. Yaakov was the Ishtam, Yoshev Alam, and Esav was the charismatic, very successful religious leader. But he wasn't minded that Yaakov was greater than him, and he knew that Yaakov was greater than him. He just couldn't accept it. And that midah kills everything for him. Because he couldn't accept that Yaakov was greater than him, even though he knew it. But you understand that when Esav stood up to speak, the whole world was like, Azai. And he stands up to speak. And he says, there are two sons of Yitzchak. There's Yaakov and there's Esav. And I'm not saying that you should take out Leah's body and I get the whole thing because I'm the Bukhar. I agree. I acknowledge, I accept that I sold my birthright. But I didn't sell my plot. Let's split that 50-50. And he makes long arguments. And he says, where's the paperwork? You're trying to cheat me. And in the meantime, Chushim cannot hear any of that. All that he knows is that his grandfather is left with Bizayin. That Zaidi is left there. He's left disgrace. All of the fancy speeches in the world don't acknowledge the fact that they are Jews in disgrace. That you are taking advantage of this very emotional situation, trying to exploit the Jew. He can't hear any of it. The fact that he is unable to hear, that's Yikar. That's a very beautiful thing. Chushim cannot hear Esav. He just looks at reality. So all of the Esav is tzayid b'chiv. Esav is very convincing in his verbal presentations. Chushim ben Dan, absolutely not, buddy. Off with your head. There is a koyach that exists within the Jewish people to ignore all of the superficiality that is being presented. And that is the beautiful deafness of Shevet Dan. Shevet Dan insists, I'm looking at reality the way that it is, and I don't care. And a yid is a yid is a yid is a yid, and you're going to tell me that they're not choshev, they're choshev. You're going to tell me that he's a terrible Jew. I don't care. He's a Jew. I'm not listening. I don't care. The gadlus of Shevet Dan is that they are willing to pick up everything because they see reality as it is. And Amalek is coming along to whisper to the Jewish people that are stragglers at the back. Hashem doesn't love you and Hashem doesn't care. This is the church up until 1967. Your God has abandoned you. You will never become sovereign in your land. You will never regain Jerusalem. You have desecrated your covenant with God, and now there is a new covenant. This is glut Catholicism. Like, this is the church until 1967, where they had to come up with a whole new shita. Baruch Hashem. To come with a whole new shita. Not that the Pope is exactly such a friend of the Jewish people. You realize, by the way, that the Pope started saying negative things about Klal Yisrael, and then all of a sudden he's very sick. Okay. He wouldn't be the first person that says negative things about the Jewish people and finds himself not okay afterwards. He was doing very well before that. Yeah, all of the things that he was very well respected, very well liked. Start saying things against Klal Yisrael. Done. Hashem Baruch. That's Baruch should take care of all of our enemies and detractors. But Shevet Dan has the koyach to pick up all of the Jews that nobody else can pick up, which is the truth. That's emes. Emes is that Klal Yisrael is amazing. That Klal Yisrael is road to Geula. That Klal Yisrael is B'ni B'chari Yisrael. And the challenge of Amalek and the challenge of Esav, which is eventually the challenge of Haman, is that the Jewish people are not beautiful, are not amazing. Mufuzar, Mufurad, Ben Amim, they're scattered, they're nothing, right? It's not worth it, Achashverosh, for you to even keep them around. It's not worth it for them to exist. Haman challenges the existence of the Jewish people. And you must remember, the Gemara tells us why is it that Haman was given the license to threaten the Jewish people as such? Because in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, they all bowed down to the Tzelem, to the idol of Nebuchadnezzar. And when Achashverosh made his party, so we spoke about last Shabbos, that he fed everybody out of the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. He was celebrating that the Jewish people are now permanently in Galus, and they will never return. And there were Jews at that party that accepted that we will always be in Galus. We will never be able to get back to Eretz Yisrael. We're finished. That's Kala Necha Shalim Acharecha, which means that the koyach of pulling yourself out from that emotional reality of the worthlessness of the Jewish people, the inability of a Jew or the Jewish people to succeed, that is called Esav, Amalek, Haman. And the koyach that gets us out of that is called Shevet Dan. That's what it is. There's a lot more to say. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach will to be continued. But that's the number 54. That's Shevet Dan. Haman represents that which is trying to destroy the Ma'aseh L'chol HaMachanos. Esav was the original one that wanted to say, Yaakov, you're nothing, you're nobody. I'll take everything, you get nothing. Haman tries to do the same, which is why his children are 54 letters. He's named 54 times in the Megillah. And when we say Al-Hanisim, they have to be 54 words. Because that's the koyach of Shevet Dan, is the conviction that the Jewish people are worth it. Blumenthal's Drush is the yakruson, the heaviness of the ears of Chushim ben Dan come up in the Megillah. Because the pasuk says, La Yehudim haisa oira simcha v'sasan v'ikar. They finally decided that they were deaf to what Haman and Amalek were saying. Finally decided, we're not listening anymore. They had, I'm not listening. I don't want to know. I know what a Yid is, and I know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, and I don't care. That was the Revach Vatzal that happened to the Jewish people. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we should be Zeicha. This Purim, for us and for Klal Yisrael, we need it. It should be freilich.